Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, and I'm here on this lovely Friday afternoon, and there's a lot to be discussed. A lot to be discussed about basketball. Now, this isn't going to be, for once, I'm not going to be talking about Team USA. There's actually some basketball news, like NBA news, that we can talk about. So, in the first segment, we are going to talk about Russell Westbrook joining the Denver Nuggets. I said before on a previous podcast that was sort of the goal for the Denver Nuggets to try and acquire Russell Westbrook and to try and team him up with Nikola Jokic. So we have Mr. Triple-Double and another Mr. Triple-Double on the same team. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in the first segment. Then in the second segment, we are going to be talking about a potential expansion team. Now, this was like rumored a while ago, but recent reports came up again thinking that LeBron is considering purchasing the NBA franchise that could be set up in Las Vegas. I'm going to explain a little bit about that more in the second segment. And then in the third segment, I literally found this news yesterday and I've been dying to talk about it. New Jersey, so the state where I live in, is looking to purchase the 76ers. So that's going to be an interesting segment for all of you guys. I'm sure all of you know exactly how I feel about Mr. Joel Embiid, exactly how I feel about the 76ers. And yeah, should be a fun segment for all of you guys. And then in the fourth segment, I will be doing another Summer League recap because I can finally do that now. We also have a special fifth segment at the end of the fourth segment, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Oh, and I forgot to say, I was also going to talk about some basketball news if it does break out, while I'm doing my segments in that fourth segment, because there was a lot of news about Alexander Sarr, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. He's the second overall pick in the draft. I'll just talk a little bit about that in the fourth segment. But before I begin, I would like to remind everybody to please go ahead and to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is GSMCpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is GSMCpodcast.net. And without further ado, let's go right ahead and go into the very first segment, and that is going to be focusing on Russell Westbrook and his decision to ultimately leave the... Oh, wait, hold on one second. I just messed up this presentation slide. Hold on. I apologize for that. There's some technical difficulties. Excuse me. Don't mind me. Okay. I think that should work. I don't know why it's being a little weird right now for me. I'm just going to see if it works. But let's see. No, it's not working. I don't know what's wrong. Well, I'll figure that out. I'll figure out what the problem is. But essentially, Russell Westbrook recently, he's been traded. Let me explain. So, history, it has a funny way of repeating itself, right? That's what they always say. So, the way that it repeated itself here was like this. So, Russell Westbrook got traded, right, to the Utah Jazz again. So, this is the second time that Russell Westbrook has been traded by a Los Angeles team. Then, for the second time, the Utah Jazz decide to waive him. Why do they do this? I have no idea, but they clearly do not want Russell Westbrook on the team at all. And it's kind of, I think it's a little bit funny how every single time Russell Westbrook gets traded to the Utah Jazz immediately decide to waive him. It's so unfortunate. It's unfortunate for him, but oh my God, for some reason it's not presenting itself properly, so that's always fantastic. Great. Doesn't even want to present it properly. Hold on just one second. Because, I'm supposed to have, a graphic up on Russell Westbrook. I'm supposed to have a picture of Russell Westbrook. But right now, for some reason, it's it's just not doing what I want it to do, and I don't know why. This is the first time that this has happened to me before, so I apologize for that. And but aside from that, I mean, Russ, he's sort of like the equivalent of a blunt in the NBA, for lack of a better term, because every single time he gets traded, it's like teams constantly just keep passing him around. Teams always just they have him for 1 year, and then after that year, they just give up on him. Why do they do this? Well, for the most part, I think it's because of his play style. His play style just doesn't really benefit most teams that use him, and it's unfortunate as it is, but that's just how it goes. And Jesus, I'm having the worst technical difficulties right now. For those of you guys on the audio section, you guys, you have no idea what's going on, but essentially, like, I'm trying to put up a graphic right now and like a picture of Russ, and it's just not working. I don't know why it's not working. It never does this to me. But yeah, fantastic. Am I right? But this is sort of like, this is bugging me. But aside from that, I mean, Russ, he was expected to join the Denver Nuggets after being out for the sign and trade agreement for Chris Dunn with the Utah Jazz and the Los Angeles Clippers. So once the Clippers essentially, acquired Chris Dunn, it was expected that they would be done with Russ. Funny, but really unfortunate for Russ, because I thought he liked being on the Clippers. Like, I don't know why. I figured maybe he doesn't like the role that he had set for being a Clipper, because I mean, to be fair, like the Clippers, they were using him as a bench option, and maybe he doesn't like playing on the bench. Who knows? But he's never really, like, how should I say, refused to any sort of coaching decisions, right? Like, there's never been a report on Russell Westbrook just flat out calling out the coach and saying I should be a starter. That's never happened before. But aside from, oh my God, this presenter view is really just driving me insane, and I cannot believe that it's happening right now. It's like, you guys don't know what's going on, but it really sucks. So this deal, reportedly, it was an expanded deal that it was reported on July 1st by Bleacher Report's Chris Haynes, in which Dunn agreed to a deal with the Clippers as an unrestricted free agent, and he's heading to the Clippers in a 3-year, $17 million deal as part of the sign and trade, according to Haynes. Now, the Clippers also sent a second-round pick swap and cash to the Utah Jazz. Now, this is the former MVP is officially parting ways with the Clippers after spending 2 years with the team, where he took on roles as a starter and in rotation coming off of the bench. And with this trade, he has now been traded more times than any former MVP in the history of basketball with this trade. And like, this has happened since, I believe, like, I want to say maybe 2019. Like, this was a trend that started since 2019, right? So the Westbrook, he played for the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? And then after his time with the Thunder, hold on one second. I'm still trying to fix these technical difficulties. But after his time with the Thunder, he got traded over to Houston. Then, after his time with Houston, he got traded over to which team was that again? Why am I fumbling on this? He got traded over to Washington, excuse me. Then, after his time with Washington, he got traded over to the Lakers. Then, after his time with the Lakers, he got traded over to Utah. Utah waived him, and then he signed with the Clippers. Then the Clippers traded him, then Utah waives him, and now he's with the Denver Nuggets. It's really like, it's back and forth with Russell Westbrook. And it's kind of, how should I say, it's a little bit unfortunate for him, I guess you could say. But I mean, again, this is just, the reason why he was traded several times before was because of his contract. Like, he was, at the time, one of the most paid players in the history of the NBA. And with him being one of the most paid players in the history of the NBA, his contract was slowly losing its value as Russell Westbrook was losing his value. Like, he was making 43 something, he was making around 40 million a year. And ever since then, ever since this, he sort of like lost his value, and he sort of, how should I say, didn't really make any teams like that impactful. Like, he was sort of hurting teams more than he was helping the teams with this problem. And well, not really with this problem, but with his style of play. And I guess like teams sort of like start to realize all the problems that Westbrook brings, because while he does bring some good, there's also a lot of bad that comes with that. And not to mention the fact that he's incredibly inefficient as a point guard, not something ideal. It's really not ideal for the team. But, aside from that, that's really all that I have to talk about with Russell Westbrook and him being traded, because it comes off as a bit of a surprise, because I didn't really expect him. I mean, I didn't expect him to get traded again, but he did say he was supposed to be, like, there were reports saying that he was going to be a Denver Nugget, but I didn't really believe that was going to happen. I thought it was going to be just, a little bit optimistic, and like I thought it was just optimism, but it really wasn't according to these reports. So yeah, like, he's now on the Denver Nuggets. I mean, how is he going to fare with the team? Not entirely sure. I really don't know how he's going to fare with the team, but aside from that, that's really all I have to talk about on this segment. So I'm going to try and fix the graphic and the presenter, but it did a little flip on me. I don't know why it did this, but I'm just going to try my best to, make it presentable in this segment, or in the next segment coming up right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned. And in the second segment, I'm also fixing this graphic, I'm also going to be talking about the expansion team that could possibly be set in Las Vegas, because, that is one of the more popular cities, and my opinions on the expansion team, if there is going to be one, right after the short break. So be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, I'm going to be talking about Las Vegas proposing an expansion team for the NBA. But before I get into this segment, I'd like to remind everybody to please go ahead, use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And without further ado, let's go right ahead and go into this next segment. But first, I'm also going to try and see if I can, fix this presentation, because, for some reason, it's just not working for me. I don't know why. Like, I can't stand it. I genuinely, I am really upset at this right now. But ugh, it doesn't even look good. Like that's not even what I'm presenting. Why is it? Whatever. I'm just gonna try and fix it again, but it's like, this is really, really aggravating me. I'm really pissed off. Maybe this has something to do with the outage that was going on. Again, I don't know how. I really don't know why it's doing this. I'm really, 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 really upset. And it's like why does it have to be like that? Like, of course, there was no problem when I was before when I was doing this, right? There was not a single problem before, but now, of course, when I need to go live and I have to do this, there is a problem. So, yay! This is great, But aside from that, I'm going to continue talking about this segment. Hopefully this will, I don't know if this is going to fix itself. It probably won't fix itself, especially with the problems that it's giving me right now. But yeah, so anyways, I'm going to continue this segment as usual, and I'll just I apologize that there's no graphic up. There's usually supposed to be a graphic up, but again, this is really just it's not working for me. It's really not, and I'm kind of mad that it's not working for me right now because I don't understand why wouldn't it work. It's been totally fine. But the NBA Arena project is sort of like emerging as a huge bid to attract a lot of, teams, and Las Vegas is one of the more popular places to start an expansion. And why wouldn't anyone want to start an expansion over in Vegas? That's like wherever it brings so much attention, and it only makes sense that that Vegas gets a team. At least, that's what a lot of people say. And that's what a lot of people would want. A lot of people would really like to have Vegas as an expansion team. Me personally, I wouldn't, but I'll go ahead and I'll explain why I don't want Vegas as an expansion team. And so, but first I'm going to go ahead and go over the facts. So there is a Las Vegas Strip that includes plans for a technological advanced entertainment and sports arena, and several ultra luxury hotels and residences, right? Now, it's a play to attract an NBA team to Las Vegas, and it's not the only one, right? There's going to be I'm assuming they're saying that there's going to be other teams that are going to be playing in the arena. For the past year and a half, the buzz has been building around the NBA, and one of the biggest catalysts and one of the guys who are interested in purchasing a team in Las Vegas is LeBron James, as well as Shaquille O'Neal, who they both said that they each want a piece of the Las Vegas team. And so there's a $10 billion project to be built, and it hosts 20,000 seats in South Valley, and it made headlines in around June of 2023. And now the news has sort of only recently was brought back up again because there is an expectation that LeBron is considered to be the heavy favorite to go and purchase the organization. And that makes sense because I can totally see LeBron running an organization in the future, and I can totally see LeBron just doing what he does best, making things better, this, that, and the other, doing what he does, essentially owning an NBA franchise. I think that's something, aside from being a coach, I think that's something that he's always wanted to do. Now, the project was announced Monday morning by real estate developer LVXP for the 27-acre site known by longtime Las Vegans as the original home of Wet and Wild between Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and Sahara, Las Vegas. The project is described in news releases as transformational and would advance the development of the north end of the Strip. Now, this is a lot of people think that a spot in Las Vegas would be very beneficial to the league, would be very beneficial to all of the other needs, and would draw in a lot of people because Las Vegas is, one of the more popular cities in North America. Now, in my opinion, however, I'm not really fond of a franchise in Las Vegas. I don't really like the idea of having a team there. And I don't really like, I understand the attention that it would bring, and I totally understand, why they would want a team there. But, at the end of the day, I think that's a really bad idea. And the reason why I think it's a bad idea is because there's a lot of things that go on in Las Vegas. There is a lot. And with the people that sort of are in Las Vegas and the things that go on in Las Vegas, I don't really know if it's the best idea to sort of, have a team host host a bunch of players there, especially upcoming rookies. I mean, we see the Raiders, right? The football team. We see so many there. It's practically cursed. Like the Las Vegas Raiders, there's a speculation around a bunch of fans that think that the Las Vegas Raiders and the franchise is cursed because for whatever reason, there are so many players that are on Las Vegas that get arrested. Either because they do something bad, they do something dumb, or they do something whatever. There's the thought process that, well, not really the thought process, but there's a trend that a lot of rookies and a lot of players on Las Vegas, they end up getting arrested. And one of the biggest reasons why in my opinion, this is the case is because this is a whole new environment. And these rookies are just signing a big contract that has so much money, right? That they want to buy all these luxury cars. They want to have fun. They're in Las Vegas. They want to gamble. They want to drink. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's what they say. And that's with someone that's so young, that's also very dangerous. Like this is a similar problem that, happens in Miami. And Pat Riley, in fact, he would force the rookies to be like, listen, one mistake and you're done, right? Like, he's not playing around with that kind of thing. Like, you have to be incredibly disciplined, and you have to train your players to be incredibly disciplined in Las Vegas, because a lot can go wrong in just 2 seconds. I mean, Look at Henry Ruggs. Look at Henry Ruggs III. I'm not really going to talk about the situation, but he was driving very, very, very fast. And that's all I'm going to say. And it was a bad mistake, and it costed him his career, right? Now, you guys can go ahead and look up what allegedly happened with Henry Ruggs. But yes, he allegedly was driving very, very fast. And that's dangerous, right? Having all of these rookies in this situation in Vegas, I think is very, very bad news. And I think this is sort of the biggest reason why I wouldn't personally want to have a team set up in Las Vegas, because this could mess up a lot of things. Like, this could give the league a bad reputation again, because remember back in the day, the Detroit Pistons, they didn't have a good reputation for the malice at the palace. Neither did the Pacers, and neither did any of those players that participated in the malice of the palace, right? And this is sort of like, again, it could be a really big deal. And I don't think this is something that should set a bunch of players back. I think this would really mess up a lot of players and their careers in this situation. Now, obviously, you could make the argument like, well, that's their fault if they choose to make bad choices. Right. But the temptation is there. And you would much rather not have any temptation at all, as opposed to having the temptation there. Like, it takes a very strong-minded person to not be that tempted. But that's all I have. Those are my opinions on the expansion team. Maybe LeBron will know how to handle things. Again, maybe he won't. Who knows? But aside from that, we are out of time for this third segment. So now we will go ahead and go into... No, not the third segment. We are out of time for the second segment. Excuse me. So now we will go ahead and go into the third segment, where I talk about New Jersey possibly looking to purchase the 76ers. I'll talk a little bit about that. I have this article pulled up right after this short break. I'll see if I can get this, presentation to work. If not, then it's unfortunate as it is, but I'll see if I can get it to work right after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I apologize for that longer than normal wait. It literally logged me out of my chat. I couldn't see the chat. And this is not my day. It's really not. And this is going awful. I apologize for all the technical difficulties. I don't know. Again, maybe this has to do with the little issue that's been going on with all the computers being shut down, the airport being shut down, all that stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spitballing. But again, this is just, all of this has never happened before. And it's annoying me because it's like, why? Why does it decide to happen now? But I digress. Now, let's go ahead and go into this next segment, which is going to be about... Hold on just one second. I'm just going to adjust this image just so that way you guys can have an easier time looking at it. All right. There we go. Again, I apologize for that little issue. Hold on just one second. Okay. Just move that there. And we'll move that there. For those of you guys on the audio section, I'm adjusting an image because this slide presenter thing is just acting up on me. So yeah. Anyways, this is originally what I wanted to... This wasn't what I wanted to show, but in the last segment I was supposed to show a picture of LeBron, and now, now I can show a picture of this because this third segment, excuse me. Jeez, I'm all over the place today. This third segment is going to be about the 76ers. Now, if you guys paid attention to some of my previous podcasts, then you will know my opinions on the 76ers are not that high. Not a big fan of Joel Embiid, don't like his play style, and that's really like where the biggest problem is with the team, honestly. Like, that's really where I have a big problem. I am not a fan of Joel Embiid. I just don't like his play style. And I also don't like the fact that he's starting on Team USA, despite the fact that Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo are playing way better than he is right now. Right? Now, there is talks about New Jersey, you know, the state where I live in, the state where I've lived in for a majority of my life, literally 18 years of my life. They're thinking of purchasing the 76ers. Yay! This is like the worst news that could have ever happened to me, because now I'm going to have to be a New Jersey whatever, if they decide to change their name, a New Jersey whatever team fan that they're going to name, New Jersey 76ers fan, and that's just going to be misery for me because I don't like Joel Embiid. I don't like his play style. I like Paul George, and you know, Maxi's tough. Right? Like, Maxi's a great basketball player, but Joel Embiid, man, it's just, Anyways, the New Jersey Devils, they have reigned as the only New Jersey team in the franchise between all of the four core leagues. Obviously, the New Jersey Nets, they used to be a team until Jay-Z decided to relocate the team over to Brooklyn. That's why I've been a Brooklyn Nets fan, because, you know, they used to be Jersey. That's the closest team that was New Jersey, like, in basketball. So, yeah. Now, since they moved, right, the New York Jets and, the New York Giants, they technically are, like, located in New Jersey, and also the New York Red Bulls, but they didn't really have the New Jersey title, right? Like, it's always New York Jets, New York Giants, despite the fact that they play in Jersey. And, you know, the Devils, they're the only true New Jersey major franchise up until, you know, this. Now, according to a report, this could change with recent decisions of an NBA team relocating to the state of New Jersey. Tom Bergeron, again, forgive me if I botched that last name, of NJ.com, reports that New Jersey is making a serious push to convince the 76ers to move to the Garden State. Although the Prudential Center has housed basketball before, such as the Nets when they needed a temporary home in the 2010 and 2011 season, and currently the NCAA's Seton Hall, the 76ers' proposed move would be to a new arena, which would be built in Camden. So, you know, it's not like they're really moving that far from Philly. They're just moving over a river to Camden. And 4 sources familiar with the situation confirmed the information to ROI&J, which was the site that reported this. The 76ers owner, who also happened to be the Devils owner, Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, have reportedly had discussions regarding the potential move for the last 2 months. Now, the lease agreement between the Wells Fargo Center and the 76ers ends following the 2030-31 NBA season. With that in mind, HBSE has attempted to build a new arena for the 76ers in Center City, Philadelphia, although those talks have hit a roadblock, even though the Devils owner have pledged to self-fund the $1.3 billion project, the reporters say. Now, whenever relocating a major sports franchise comes up, many defer to the belief that it's just a negotiation tactic that will eventually lead to a resolution in the team staying put. However, Bergeron, again, excuse me if I completely botched that name, lists plenty of reasons why a move to New Jersey makes sense. So, the Sixers team offices and practice facility are already in Camden at a 66,230 square foot facility that opened to much fanfare in 2016. HBSC owns the New Jersey Devils and the Prudential Center, and its two principal owners, Josh Harris and David Blitzer, have ties to the state. Governor Phil Murphy has a long-standing relationship with Harris and Blitzer. He is in regular dialogue with both on various issues. The state has available land in the Camden area, including along the waterfront, potentially a landing spot for an ultra-modern facility that has great views of the Philadelphia skyline. The transit connectivity between Philadelphia and Camden would make it easy for Philly fans to still attend games, and while HBSC's owners have indicated a willingness to pay for the entirety of the project coming to New Jersey, would make them eligible for a tax credit of up to $400 million through the state's Aspire program. Although they recognize the struggles the 76ers are having in finding an eventual new home, Philly officials remain focused and positive that there will be a solution that works out for the team to stay in Philadelphia. So it's a possibility. It's not entirely true whether, it's not set in stone that that's going to happen, right? But who knows? Anything can happen. There are a lot of crazy things that could happen in the sports world. Wouldn't be surprised if this is one of them. Now, a spokesperson with the Devils reaffirmed the focus and positive outlook. We are focused on our proposal, we are focused on our proposal in Philly. Obviously have a great relationship with Murphy in New Jersey, but focused on pushing our proposal for market east across the line, end quote. However, if it doesn't work out in Philadelphia, there are ties to the 76ers in Camden who are community partners, which would make sense for them to move the team. Now, New Jersey is seemingly a rising sports town. The 2024 Stadium Series at MetLife Stadium was a major success. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is actually coming to the Garden State, and the Devils are resurfaced as a contender. Whereas it may seem unrealistic that the 76ers actually move to neighbor the Devils in New Jersey, one source in ROI and J hasn't nixed the idea. Maybe it's a long shot, but sometimes long shots pay off in a big way. So we're not it's just a possibility. It could happen, not entirely sure if it will happen. So, I personally hope that it doesn't happen. I do not want to root for Joel Embiid. I really do not want Joel Embiid to be in New Jersey. No, thank you. I will gladly do anything else other than that. But aside from that, that is the end of the third segment, and therefore, we are out of time. So we will go ahead and go into the fourth segment, which is going to be talking about some of the NBA Summer League performances and really, what the biggest story around the NBA is right now, considering that considering all of the stuff that's going on in the Summer League, because there is a lot of news, not really a lot of news, but there's a lot of fans are sort of starting to realize something, and I'm going to explain what they're realizing right after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the next segment of the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this segment, we are going to be talking about the Summer League and their games, and also a little bit of an update on, fantastic. This is having some issues yet again. Ugh. This is just not my day. It's really just not my day. Okay, there we go. Now it wants to finally do a thing. All right, anyways. So, the Summer League. Now, the reason why I have Alexander Sarr up on this image is in case you guys don't remember, he is the second overall pick in the entirety of the NBA draft, and he hasn't really gotten that much attention. In fact, the only attention that he's gotten is that over the past 2 games, he's only been able to hit 1 shot. You heard that right. The past 2 games, he's only been able to hit 1 shot. Now, you guys remember that I talked about Alexander Sarr. He went 0 for 15 in his first ever Summer League game, right? Well, in this game, he went 1 for 6, which is horrible considering that he is the second overall pick in the entire NBA draft. Now, really, I'm very surprised that this is what happens in the Summer League. Like, everyone was so quick to talk trash about Bronny. Everyone was so quick to say how Bronny was horrible, how bad he was, how he couldn't shoot, how he couldn't do this. And now here we have the second overall pick in the NBA draft playing worse than Bronny. Like, when are people going to realize that the Summer League, that this has nothing to do with the regular season and that these guys are rookies and they're going to have bad games? Like, that's just what's going to happen. What I don't understand, however, is how they're not making as big of a deal with the second overall pick in the entire draft playing this bad. But Bronny, yes, everyone's going to make a big deal out of it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, there was so much criticism on Bronny, and Bronny's actually been playing a lot better in the recent games. Like, again, when he was playing on Thursday, I believe, he was playing on Thursday, he ended the game 5 for 10 from the field and 13 points. You see? Like, it's as if these players get better over time. I don't get it. Like, people immediately think that if you play bad, you can't get better. I don't understand people's logic sometimes. And I also don't understand just the logic of, why the Summer League matters so much. Like, everyone's already quick to calling out, there are people that are so quick to calling Alexander Sarr a bust. There are people that were quick to calling Bronny James a bust. Like, it's the Summer League. These games, they're supposed to be harmless. Like, this is the time where you make the mistakes and you try to improve as the season goes on. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense. But for some reason, everyone loves to jump the gun immediately. Like, does everyone forget that Victor Wembanyama was supposed to be a bust after 1 game in the Summer League? Everyone thought that Victor was going to be a bust in the Summer League. Everyone thought that Victor was going to be a bust after 1 game in the Summer League. Just 1 game. It only took 1 game, and there were so many people in the comments that was just like, oh, he's going to be a bust. Oh, he's going to be horrible. Oh, there are so many other players in the draft that were better than him. Where are those guys now? Every single one of those guys was proven wrong, and Victor has been, proving everyone that he is going to be the face of this entire league and that he is going to be a huge problem because he is 7'4". Now, really, that's all I wanted to talk about with Alexander Sarr, right? But that's not going to be the end of the segment. I'm going to recap the rest of the Summer League games that ended up happening on Thursday because there was a lot of them. Again, so the Timberwolves, they ended up playing the Houston Rockets, and they ended up beating them. Miller ended up scoring 21 points, getting 11 rebounds, and also recording 5 steals. Now, Reed Shepherd for the Houston Rockets, arguably one of the best picks in the entire draft, ended up scoring 20 points and 7 assists. The Clippers, they have yet to lose a single game in the Summer League. And they beat the Utah Jazz 105-88. Now, Brown for the Clippers ended up getting 22 points and 6 assists. Collier for the Utah Jazz ended up getting 20 points. Now, for the Lakers, obviously I mentioned Bronny and his performance, but the best player for the Lakers was actually Castleton. Again, another pretty good pick. He is the center, and he ended up getting 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. Now, the other draft pick that the Lakers used was on Dalton Knecht, and he ended up scoring 20 points and was 2 for 6 from 3 and 7 for 16 from the field. But, 20 points. He also has one of the coolest nicknames in the NBA, Connect 4. Like, that is just top tier nickname right there. That is crazy, right? And the Cavs, the best player for the Cavs was Tyson, ended up recording 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists, nearly getting a triple-double, but, just was a little bit shy of recording that. Next, the Brooklyn Nets, they ended up playing against the Orlando Magic. Now, the Nets, they won just by 2 points. The score was 102-100, and the best player for the Nets was Wilson. Now, he ended up scoring 33 points. Like, he was a monster. 33 points and 10 rebounds. And he didn't really pass the ball that much, but then again, when you're scoring as well as he was, I wouldn't pass the ball either. And for the Orlando Magic, the best player for the Magic was Maledon, and he ended up scoring 20 points and also recorded 6 assists. Now, the Wizards, I already talked about Alexander Czar being absolutely horrible in this game, and literally just making only 1 shot in 2 games is gross. Like, people wanted to talk trash about Bronny. The number 2 overall pick is playing way worse. Just think about that. Then, the best player for Washington, they still ended up winning 73-69, and Bernard ended up scoring 20 points for Washington, and Jones ended up scoring 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists for the Sacramento Kings. Mouth hurts. Jesus, I apologize for that. But also, off the bench, Ellis for the Kings ended up scoring 15 points. He was the leading scorer for the Kings, but, they ended up losing, so that's just unfortunate for him. Now, the Grizzlies, another team that remains undefeated in the Summer League. Now, they ended up winning 88-77. The Pelicans, they remain defeated in the Summer League, so they haven't won a single game yet. Ford for the Pelicans ended up scoring 16 points. And for the Grizzlies, Scottie Pippen Jr., again, with a great performance, 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 11 assists. So, fantastic performance coming in from him. And then the final game for the Summer League, the Nuggets, they ended up playing the Pacers. They ended up getting their first win against the Pacers. They won 86-71. Tyson ended up scoring 23 points. And Walker for the Pacers ended up scoring 13 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. Now, they only show their last names on the box scores. That's the only reason why I'm bringing up their last names. So if you're interested in their game, go ahead and figure out who they are. Me personally, I'm more interested in, I want to see if Scottie Pippen Jr. is going to be better than his father. I'm also, obviously Connect 4, that's another one. But Reed Shepherd, I think he's a really... I wouldn't call him a sleeper now that I think about it, because a lot of people also think he's pretty good. But he's been playing phenomenally for the Rockets. Again, just the Summer League, so there's no telling how it'll translate in the rest of the NBA. But I'll go ahead. I'll give my rankings for, the best picks in the draft just after. Maybe I'm thinking of doing it either after the Summer League or in the middle of the Summer League. Just one or the other. Not entirely sure. So with that, we are out of time for this 4th segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the 5th segment where I explain the second apron, because I didn't really do a segment that sort of explains it. And I feel like maybe there's some people that are a little bit confused about how the second apron works. I only explained it for a few seconds. So I'm just going to do a better job and have a whole segment dedicated to it. So be sure to tune in after this short break. And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, I'm going to be explaining the second apron and exactly what that is, and, just do a better job than what I normally did. And because I only really briefly covered it, and so I want to have a whole segment dedicated to it. So, in short, the second apron is meant to prevent teams from creating super teams, right? This was a big problem when Golden State had Kevin Durant on the roster. They added Kevin Durant on an already overpowered team and a ridiculously stacked team with a team that went 73-9 without Kevin Durant. So ever since then, a lot of teams, they really don't want this to... Adam Silver didn't want this to be a trend. And they didn't want so many other teams to just, build these kind of super teams. And this second apron is meant to prevent that. How does it prevent that? I'll go ahead and I'll explain with this article, right? And I'll also, just sum it up a little bit in case some people have a little difficulty understanding. So, unlike the NFL and the NHL, there is no hard salary cap for NBA teams. Now, most teams actually spend each season over the soft cap because teams can exceed the limit to re-sign their own players and sign recent draft picks and minimum contract players. So it's like there's a thought process in the NBA, well, not really a thought process, but there's a belief amongst the fans that the salary cap doesn't exist because there are so many teams that go over the salary cap and nothing happens, right? Now, this sort of punishes teams that end up going above the salary cap. So, there's a luxury tax system to punish teams that go too far over the cap, and a repeater tax designed to punish teams that exceed the tax threshold, approximately 121.5% of the salary cap, in 3 out of 4 years. So, essentially, the further you go into the tax, and the more often you do so, you pay an increasingly higher penalty on every dollar spent. That's how a team like, 2023-2024 Warriors can end up paying nearly 177 million luxury tax payments despite only 42.5 million above the threshold. There's also various exceptions teams can use to sign players depending on whether they are taxpayers, non-taxpayers, over the cap, or have room under the salary cap. So, under the old CBA, teams that used certain exceptions or acquired a player via sign and trade were hard capped at a number called the apron. Now, the new CBA has 2 aprons. There's still ways for teams to hard cap themselves at one of the new aprons, but the real story is what happens to teams that can and do exceed either one of these aprons. So, for example, the 2024-2025 NBA spending levels, the salary cap is expected to be 140.588 million. Now, the tax level is expected to be 170.814 million. The first apron is 178.132 million, and the second apron is 188.931 million. So, what does that mean? Essentially, depending on how much you're spending on your team determines which sort of level in the NBA threshold you're at, which one of the levels you are. So, consider the minimum team 126 as the first level, and the second level would be your salary cap. Then your tax level would be the 170. Then the first apron would be the next level, second apron would be the last level, right? So depending on how much you spend and on your team is dependent on where you'll end up on this level system. So the first apron is approximately 126.7% of the salary cap after applying the formula. Now, this comes with its own share of restrictions. Now, these are new restrictions. So teams that are in the first apron can no longer sign bought out players who who made more than the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, so roughly 12.8 million in 2024-2025. This again gets increased with the new NBA TV deal, so the number is going to change, right, before being waived, right? So that's one of the restrictions. Another thing that the first apron teams cannot do is they also can't take back more salary than they send out in trades. And they can't use trade exceptions that were created the season prior. So those are on top of needing to pay a lot more with, taxes and the tax levels. They also are restricted on doing certain things in the NBA and certain actions, right? Now, the second apron, this is approximately 134.4% of the salary cap. And this is the real game changer for a lot of things, and why a lot of teams try to avoid that second apron. So they have the first apron restrictions, and they also have other restrictions added onto that. So second apron teams, while not being able to while following the things that first apron teams cannot do, they also can't use mid-level exception. They can't trade multiple players in the same deal. They can't sign and trade their own players to acquire others, and they also can't send out cash in any trades. So, and finally, teams that are above the second apron at the end of the regular season will have their first round draft pick 7 years out frozen so that it can't be used in any trades. The only way to unfreeze it would be to duck the second apron in at least 3 of the next 4 years. So there are a lot of restrictions for second apron teams. They can't even trade away any of their picks that they were to get, right? So, for example, if a team's above the second apron on the last day of the 2024-2025 season, its 2032 first rounder will be frozen. And the earliest the pick could be traded would be after the 2027-2028 season. However, if a team remains above the second apron in at least 2 of the 4 years after having its pick frozen, the frozen pick moves to the bottom of the first round, no matter how poorly the team performs. So this really could mess up a whole bunch of teams. The second apron could kill franchises. Now, the roster building restrictions are already crippling enough, but those delayed draft pick ramifications could be devastating for teams in the long run. So you can see why no one wants to cross that second apron now, other than teams reaping the benefits of surefire contention like the Boston Celtics. They're a team that's going to be well above the second apron given how much money they're giving all of their players, right? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown making the most money. And obviously, that's something that they're not worried about, especially since the owners are going to be selling the Boston Celtics. I have no idea if I even talked about that, but they are considering selling the Boston Celtics for a lot of money because they don't want to get into that second apron. Now that this is I hope this sort of clears a lot of things up with this, second apron, NBA's taxes, luxury tax, this, that, and the other. Hopefully you guys have a better understanding of the second apron and what that entails. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree with this, if you guys like the second apron, if you don't like it. I personally love it. I think this is great for the NBA. This is desperately needed. They really needed this to finally happen, and it did, so that way it could prevent an overpowered and ridiculous team like the Golden State Warriors from ever being a thing ever again. Not a big fan of that. Was not a big fan of Kevin Durant on Golden State, mainly because it robbed LeBron of 2 championships. I don't, in my opinion, that Warriors team, if it didn't have Kevin Durant, and that move to Golden State didn't happen, LeBron would be sitting on 2 more rings right now. I am fully confident on that because there is no team in the history of basketball that was beating that Golden State team. There was none. 0. The Chicago Bulls weren't going to do it. The Phoenix Suns weren't going to do it. The Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant, Harden, and Kyrie, they weren't going to do it. The what other legendary teams? The Miami Heat, when they had LeBron, they weren't going to do it. The San Antonio Spurs in 2014, they weren't going to do it. There's so many teams that I could just, every single team in the history of basketball that has won a championship is never beating that 2016-17 Golden State Warriors or that 2017-18 Golden State Warriors when they had Kevin Durant. Never. But aside from that, that is all I have for you guys on this segment, and therefore that is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and have a wonderful weekend. And as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great.